Hey, this is Chris with Rekkid Talk. So today we're doing a ranking show. This will be a ranking the bands rather than ranking the albums of a single band. So what I'm going to get into today are my top 25 artists that I only have a compilation. I only own like a greatest hits sort of collection of, rather than owning individual albums or several albums. So this only counts if currently the only thing I own by the band is a compilation. If I only own one album, but it's just a regular album, doesn't count. If I have a compilation and I have something else by them, doesn't count. So for example, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, I have a comp of them, but I have a 7-inch single version of I Love Rock and Roll, so doesn't quite count. So the first 5 bands I'm going to get into, I actually don't have physical product of. These are where I have the MP3 downloads only. Number 25, Abba. So Abba strikes me as the perfect band to only have a greatest hits compilation of, because while I will admit that I've never actually listened to individual Abba albums, I just can't imagine that the deep cuts on ABBA albums are going to be better than Dancing Queen and Waterloo and Take a Chance on Me. Honestly, I could probably have an ABBA EP. Um, there's really probably only about 5 songs that I really like by them. So, number 25, ABBA. Number 24, NWA. So, we're going to gangster rap here. Now, if you don't like NWA, I understand. There's a lot of problems with NWA. There's violence, there's misogyny, there's homophobia. I mean, there's a lot wrong with a lot of their lyrics. It's not somebody I actually listen to very much anymore, and there's probably only a few selected tracks that I will listen to. I do remember the very first time I ever heard NWA. It's when I was an undergraduate in college. There was a black guy who lived on the same floor in the dorms. He was on our college basketball team, a guy from Detroit. One day he's like, "Oh, you white boys have got to hear my new record, my new Rekkid." And so it was probably on cassette, but so he had Straight Outta Compton. We were like, wow. We were like flabbergasted when we heard it for the first time. And I mean, we'd already heard rap songs with like dirty lyrics. I mean, Two Live Crew and Slick Rick and that sort of stuff was already going around. But this was on a different plane than that. It wasn't just sexually crude. Number 23, Blondie. Blondie is somebody that I could definitely see myself getting stuff from them and them leaving this list. But currently, I just have an MP3 greatest hits collection by Blondie. Rapture, Heart of Glass. I think I do have, I think, if I remember right, I think the Train Spotting soundtrack has a Blondie song on it, but I'm not going to count that as not being on this list. Number 22, Groove Armada. I like to listen to that sort of music occasionally, and they don't strike me as somebody that I'm ever going to bother getting anything else by. That's probably as much Groove Armada as I need. Number 21, this is going to be a band that I used to have physical product of. So I liked metal quite a bit in the early mid-80s when I was a teenager. When I reached college age, I got into alternative and college rock and became pretty snobby about that sort of music. And I purged most of my heavy metal collection. And here's a band I wish I hadn't purged, Iron Maiden. So I currently have a greatest hits compilation of Iron Maiden. Back in the day, I had Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, Power Slave. I had those 3 on cassette. If I was ever going to go and get some Iron Maiden on vinyl or CD, those would probably be the albums I would seek out. All right, so top 20, we'll actually get into stuff I have physical content, physical format. It's going to be mostly CD. There'll be only a very few albums. I don't tend to buy greatest hits compilations on vinyl very often. I'm usually either buying individual albums, or if it's a compilation, it's more like a uh, geographic or style of music compilation, like here's Cuban music or that sort of thing. So number 20, Aerosmith's greatest hits. And again, this was somebody that I had some of the like the permanent vacation and that sort of stuff back in the day. I got rid of that stuff. I'm never going to rebuy that. Really, this is just the 1970s Aerosmith, which for me is really the only Aerosmith I've really ever want to listen to again. So, Aerosmith's greatest hits. Number 19, and this is again somebody that I used to have Eliminator and Afterburner, but I don't have them anymore. I do have this ZZ Top Greatest Hits CD. If you look on the back, there is a whole bunch of ZZ Top albums that I could own, but I don't own. So that's going to be my number 19. Number 18, Lenny Kravitz. So here's a Lenny Kravitz Greatest Hits. Again, I enjoy some Lenny Kravitz songs, but this is probably going to be sufficient for me for Lenny Kravitz. Number 17, back into some metal. I had a few Dio cassettes back in the day, and so recently I picked up this. This is just some sort of cheap comp by Flashback Records Dio Metal Hits, and so this will have I think it's mostly stuff off of like Holy Diver, Last in Line, kind of those first couple Dio albums. And then there's a bunch of, you can get some Alice Cooper and some Dokken and some Twisted Sister. I think on sort of this same sort of cheapo compilation series here. Number 16, we have the Ozzy Osbourne Randy Rhoads tribute album. So of course this is material off the first couple Ozzy albums before Randy unfortunately passed away. Now I do have a Black Sabbath, early Black Sabbath album, Paranoid, that obviously Ozzy was on, but this is the only Ozzy Osbourne solo that I have, and it probably will remain that way. Number 15. Oh, this is also on part of that flashback cheapo, but this is not metal. This is sort of the opposite of metal. This is mellow 1970s soft rock, America, A Horse with No Name. And so, Horse with No Name, Ventura Highway, Sister Golden Hair. Obviously this sort of mellow 70s soft rock is not my main thing, but every once in a while I'll throw on a few of these America songs. And then they've got some other comps of this sort of stuff, so you can get your Ambrosia and you can get your Bread and your Daryl Hall and John Oates and that sort of stuff. Notice they didn't put the Twisted Sister and the Alice Cooper and the Dokken on there. Okay, number 14, the Smiths. I like the Smiths. To be honest, I like the Smiths mainly for Johnny Marr. I find Morrissey to be an insufferable twat. He's only seems to be getting worse rather than better. But just some of these classic. So then you've got pictures of album covers and the like. Heaven knows I'm miserable now. The Boy with a Thorn in His Side. Last night I dreamt somebody could love me. Shop Workers of the World Unite. I mean, Morrissey does have cool song titles. So while we're on the Smiths theme, here is my number 13, Be Blown to Smithereens. So this is a comp of the Smithereens. Probably Blood and Roses would be my favorite Smithereens song. They're not anybody I've honestly ever pursued listening to individual albums all that much, but smithereens. Then we actually do have some vinyl, so we're still on the Smith topic. Number 12, Elliot Smith. And so I just have an introduction to Elliot Smith, which includes songs from each of his 7 studio albums that he made before. He's another one who passed away far too young. And this is on the Kill Rock Stars label. And so, an introduction to Elliot Smith. And then let's do one more vinyl. I showed this one in the country music tag, but we'll show as my number 11. We'll show Kenny Rogers' greatest hits. The Gambler, Coward of the County, Lucille, She Believes in Me. So this is just sort of I think this is mostly your sort of late 70s, I think this was sort of the peak of Kenny Rogers' career, at least commercially. All right, let's get into the top 10 now. Top 10, I think, is going to have some shockers for you. There's going to be a couple things you're going to go, I don't believe you only have a compilation of. You're going to go, how can you only have a compilation of? So, number 10 is Elvis Presley. So obviously I went to Walmart one day, and so I got Elvis 30 number 1 hits. Oh, it actually appears I must have gone to Walmart at least twice, because I have Elvis 2 as well. So maybe I'm breaking my own rule. I only have compilations, but for Elvis, I have 2 different compilations. Number 9, New Order, Substance, 1987. This is actually something I recently upgraded to CD from cassette. I was buying some used CDs, and it was one of those things, you're buying CDs on Discogs. Oh, you can add another CD and the shipping price will be the same. And so you look through who they have available for cheap, and I found, oh, yeah, I'll get New Order on CD. So New Order, Substance, 1987. Number 8, Pat Benatar, Best Shots. I had a couple Pat Benatar albums on vinyl back when I was younger. Again, those are ones that somewhere over time have disappeared. But this pretty much has all of your standard Pat Benatar hits. I'm not someone who's ever going to talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame very much. I kind of think if you were somebody that was around 40 or more years ago and you're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet, most of the time there's probably a reason. But Pat Benatar, I have no clue how she's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Number 7, Talking Heads. So Sand in the Vaseline, this 2 CD set. Talking Heads seems to be pretty sufficient for my Talking Heads needs. Number 6, let's get into some goth rock, Bauhaus Crackle. And so this was a best of Bauhaus set. Now, I will admit, I do have a Peter Murphy solo record. I do have a Love and Rockets record. But this is the only Bauhaus record I have. So, Bauhaus Crackle. And one of the songs on this compilation was a David Bowie cover, Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, which of course is also on this 2 CD Bowie compilation. The singles 1969 to 1993. Which shockingly is the only David Bowie I owe. So that's my number 5, David Bowie. Number 4, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I actually have a cassette, which is sort of a homemade Tom Petty greatest hits that a friend made for me, a friend who was a big Tom Petty fan. That was probably made for me in like the late 80s or early 90s, so it sort of cuts off at that point. also included some songs that wouldn't typically be featured on a greatest hits released by a label. But this has pretty much what you would expect to hear on a Tom Petty compilation. This one was made in 1993, so it doesn't have anything after that. But starting with American Girl, taking you through Refugee, You Got Lucky, I Won't Back Down, Running Down a Dream, all that sort of stuff. I wonder, there's probably a song or two that they stuck on here that wasn't on anything else. All right, let's get into the really unbelievable. How does he only have a compilation of number 3, The Doors? And so I remember about the time the movie came out, I got really into The Doors. I picked up this 2 CD set. Probably didn't go any farther at that point because this does have a lot of stuff on it, and I wasn't in a position to buy as much as I wanted back then. And just for some reason, I've never gone any farther in buying Doors material than the greatest hits. Number 2, this is probably actually the single most unbelievable one to me, The Clash. So I have the story of The Clash. Again, this is a 2 CD set. Really, at some point, I've got to fix this. There is definitely some Clash records that I should have in my collection. And finally, my number 1. If you've made it this far in the video, I think this is just going to stun, and you'll be stunned, you'll be appalled. I know a lot of you in the VC are huge fans, huge collectors. Yeah, Beatles 1. The only Beatles record I own. Yes, it's true.